I agree with that. I think, creativity is such an interesting word. It's kind of like the word innovation. And I think sometimes those two words they're almost overstated and they feel like unachievable. Innovation means you have to be Steve Jobs and invent the iPhone. Well, that's not what innovation is. Creativity means, you have to be Jay-Z or John Lennon or whomever and, be this hugely successful artist. Really, I think it's just about finding an original or an interesting solution to a problem, and or creating something. I mean, that's really what creativity is. I mean, I think whether it's creating a cake or, creating a document or creating a memo, or I mean, I think all of that requires creativity, and you have to work at it. The songwriters, they sit down and they work. I mean, maybe writing a song doesn't feel like work, but that's what they do. No different than, the writing course that we went through. We had to sit down every day and write. And through that work and through that time that you put in, that's where you're able to get the creativity.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, taking it back to say writing your book or doing this podcast or doing anything. I think the first time you do anything, it seems hard, unless you have a natural sort of gift or inclination for that. But I think the more you do anything, the better you become. And I think the interesting thing with sort of Seth Godin's course is that it sort of breaks it down to writing a little bit every day. And say you're writing a 40,000 word book, you almost like divide by the number of days and figure out, okay, what numbers do I have to hit? And I found that a really useful way of trying to just break down that problem. So it's almost if you have a big project to work, it's very difficult to take it all on board all at once. But if you just break it down with your team, then it makes such a difference, doesn't it, Judy?
Agreed. I think also the other key is to get started.
Yeah.
And so often we don't create because we just are too afraid to start. And so we just don't start. The other thing I think is essential is giving yourself and your brain enough free time, and enough, time for quiet thought, whatever that looks like, whether it's, meditation or whatever it is, or walking or exercise, whatever that is, that's where I think creativity can really happen. When you give yourself the time, you give yourself a problem, and then you kind of put that problem in your head and you just let it sit there. And then you give yourself the time to think. And often that's where we do our best problem solving or come up with our best ideas, is when we're quiet. I don't know about you, but I'm awful at work. I mean, I am sort of the least creative, in my day job when I'm doing work, because, I don't know, you've got email going and text messages are flying in and you're jumping from meeting to meeting, at least in my world. It's usually on Saturday mornings or, Saturday afternoon when I'm walking my dog, where I can have some clarity. And that's because my mind is rested and I'm not sort of, multitasking and flipping between one thing after another.
No, I totally agree with that. And actually, there's a really nice lecture on YouTube by this neuroscientist called Professor Vincent Walsh, and he touches on some of those themes. I'll email it to you, and I'll also leave it.
Yeah, I'd love that.
But it's that whole, I love that whole idea of just going offline. And for me, I enjoy watching YouTube, and a lot of my best ideas will come from just watching that and thinking about connections, because I think if you're thinking directly about a problem, it's difficult to solve. But I think when you're going offline and then your brain is working in the background and creating these connections. So no, I totally agree with that.